As we continue to look at the Bible through the lens of archaeology, we last saw the evidence for Samson, Samuel, David, and Solomon, and next we will see the evidence for Jeroboam, Elisha, Hezekiah, and Jeremiah. We will begin in northern Israel in Dan. In 2 Kings chapter 12 we read, Jeroboam feared that the people who went to the temple in Jerusalem would turn against him and side with Judah. To prevent this, he built two idolatrous temples in Israel. One was built in Bethel and the other was in Dan. In 1966, excavation began on a site known as Tel Dan, which is on the northern border of modern Israel. Jeroboam's northern temple was found in Dan at this site. This video includes footage from the site of Jeroboam's altar, which is now part of an archaeological park and nature preserve.
In Israel, in Israel.
Here's the base of an altar. This we would expect, or archaeologists interpret this as Jeroboam the First's altar. Later, we're going to have three other kings in the north who are, two other kings in the north who are big builders, Ahab and Jeroboam II. Ahab will put in these steps. So Jeroboam I puts in an altar and an open air high place. Ahab puts in the steps and enlarges the altar. Jeroboam II also expands this cult site. So here we have large frame representing the altar that's put in after Jeroboam I. Look, we have steps leading up to the altar. Probably go up yet again. We have a walkway around it. And steps off the altar.
The altar in the temple in the days of the Master was 2 stories, roughly twice this size. So altars could be very, very large. This is 1 Kings 12. Now this became a sin for the people. The people went to worship before the one as far as Dan.
Jeroboam's northern altar was cursed and broken by God in 930 BC. Jeroboam lived until around 910 BC. Our next site is in Rehov, Israel. In 2 Kings, Elisha gave instructions for Jehu, son of Nimshi, to be anointed king of Israel. This video explores the site where that information plays a critical role.
Well, he healed the sick, raised the dead, and called fire down from heaven. The prophet Elisha is one of the great figures of the Bible. My colleague Chris Mitchell has an exclusive look at the site that could contain his house.
This is Tel Rehov in the Jordan Valley. During 16 years of digging, archaeologists uncovered a 3,000-year-old, well-planned city. They also found a unique building that might have been the house of Elisha.
The house was full with objects of unique type. 2 altars we found there, 2 pottery altars that were used for burning incense.
Lead archaeologist Ami Mazar also points out the difference in the structure of the house.
Normally houses have one entrance leading into a large space with rooms all around. This house was divided into 2 wings. The 2 wings were connected to one another through the back room. And each one of the wings had an opening towards the street.
Outside the room were incense altars, maybe used to make an offering to God, before entering to hear the prophet's message. During the excavation, archaeologists discovered this special room inside the house with a table and a bench inside. They also discovered a pottery shard with the name Elisha on it, dated to the 9th century, which leads some to believe this was the room of the prophet Elisha.
We found an ink inscription written in red ink on pottery. It's broken, unfortunately, but we reconstruct the name as Elisha.
Elisha was born about 7 miles from Tel Rehov and Avel Mahola, and went throughout the kingdom of Israel, from Jericho to Samaria to Shunam.
I cannot say for sure that this particular Elisha that we found is the biblical Elisha. It's very difficult to say. But it's very tempting because it's exactly the period when Elisha acted, the second half of the 9th century BC.
Elisha the prophet was known for telling the widow to borrow empty pots, fill them with a tiny cruse of oil, and sell them to pay her creditors, raising the Shunammite son from the dead, and instructing the Syrian army commander Naaman to wash in the Jordan River 7 times to be healed of leprosy. Archaeologist Stephen Fawn calls the evidence compelling.
With only 6 other people by the name of Elisha known in that time for a couple of centuries on either side, we can somehow believe that either there was just the luck that this holy man was also by the name of Elisha, or this was Elisha the prophet himself.
Another discovery pointing to Elisha is the discovery of 2 different inscriptions mentioning the family of Nimshi.
Remember, it was Elijah that was told to anoint Jehu, the son of Nimshi, to be king. He passed that on to Elisha, who sent out one of his disciples to finally do the anointing.
Many archaeologists shy away from drawing conclusions about the Bible, but some see it as a way of putting the pieces together.
Archaeology is like a huge puzzle. We add information from one excavation, a second excavation, a third excavation, Chatzor, Megiddo, Tel Rehov, Bet She'an, Samaria, and together we bring it into a large picture, the large puzzle, trying to decipher the material culture of the Israelites.
For Carrie Summers, who heads Nazareth Village, it's even more.
It's like any other archaeological site, in essence, is every scoop of dirt proves the Bible 1 scoop at a time, and this site is absolutely magnificent.
The future of the site is uncertain because its mud bricks are deteriorating. Experts hope, however, it can be preserved to help future generations understand the Bible.
Elisha lived until 798 BC. Next, we will move back to ancient Jerusalem. In 2 Kings and 2 Chronicles, it is recorded that Hezekiah made a pool and a conduit to bring the water of the Gihon spring into the city. The remarkable tunnel of King Hezekiah has been located underneath the ancient city of Jerusalem. It was hewn into the bedrock to connect the Gihon spring to the Pool of Siloam. Archaeologists agree it was constructed to deny water to the Assyrian army and protect the city's water supply, just as the Bible records. The tunnel was discovered by the American archaeologist Edward Robertson in 1838. Inside the tunnel, there was even an inscription in ancient Hebrew describing the 2 teams starting at either end and meeting in the middle. We will now take a virtual walkthrough tour of this historic tunnel.
In my opinion, this is one of the most exciting experiences in all of Jerusalem.
This tunnel was created by King Hezekiah about 2,700 years ago as part of the preparations for the Assyrian siege, and to this day it still conceals many secrets. In 1880, 2 youngsters were trudging through the water when suddenly one of them felt strange carvings on the wall.
They brought a torch and discovered a rare Hebrew inscription dating Hezekiah's period.
That begins as follows. The tunnel was carved through, and this was the way it was cut.
We're out of the tunnel, and here we are in the Siloam pool.
In ancient times, this pool looked completely different. Today, we have only just started uncovering the pool that existed here in the First Temple period. But in 2005, impressive parts of the Second Temple period Siloam pool were accidentally discovered. The city of David never ceases to surprise us.
Hezekiah's tunnel was created around 715 BC. And Hezekiah lived until 686 BC. In and around ancient Jerusalem, many clay seals called bullae have been found. These clay seals, which were used to seal important documents, when burned, became fired like clay. When these seals are found by archaeologists in a controlled dig site, they become an undeniable confirmation for the officials that they represent. Of the many bullae in existence, these amazing names were found among them: King Ahaz, Baruch, Jeremiah scribe, and Zedekiah the son of Hananiah. In all, there are reports of over 52 biblically named bullae found so far. Archaeologists have found 2 other clay seals that directly attest to the prophet Jeremiah. In Jeremiah 37, we read that Jeremiah told King Zedekiah that Jerusalem was about to be delivered into the hands of the king of Babylon. Jeremiah 38 records that 3 very specific officials heard this prophecy of the coming destruction and God's advice to surrender through the prophet Jeremiah. These 3 officials' names are transliterated into English as Shemaliah the son of Matan, Gelaliah the son of Pashur, and Jukal the son of Shemaliah. These 3 officials then asked the king to have Jeremiah put to death, and when he agreed, they cast Jeremiah into a pit to die. In this next video, we will learn why Jeremiah chapter 38 verse 1, which records those names of those officials, has become a critical passage for confirming the book of Jeremiah.
Our workers were sifting, and they pulled out of the ground a bulla, which is an ancient clay stamp. We used to use clay, not wax at the time. We would stamp it with our rings, and it would seal a document. I said, Elad, is there a name on the stamp? She said, I don't know, I have to melt it down. She calls me 5 minutes before Shabbat. You know what it's like 5 minutes before Shabbat? Everybody's running around like crazy. I said, Elad, what's the name? She said, Doron, go get Sefer Yirmiyahu. So I opened up Sefer Yirmiyahu. She said, turn to chapter 37 and chapter 38. Do you know what the story's about? And the story, if Jerusalem begins with David, it goes father, son, until it ends with Tzidkiyahu. In the moments before Jerusalem falls to the Babylonians in 586, Tzidkiyahu sends a messenger to Jeremiah the prophet to ask for a bracha. Jeremiah sends him back a message saying, this is it, the city is over. Hashem has left you, give up now. The messenger then turns to the king and says, listen, all your soldiers heard the prophet Jeremiah, and they're all getting out of Dodge. They're booking out of town. You have to kill this prophet now, or you're going to have no soldiers left. So the king sends the messenger to kill the prophet. He throws him into a pit. Jeremiah is eventually saved. That messenger's name in the book of Jeremiah is Yehuchal, the son of Shlomiah. The name that Elat found was Yehuchal, the son of Shlomiah. She found the actual seal of the minister in the court that tries to kill the prophet Jeremiah, written clearly in the Torah, in the Bible.
Wow. Wow. Right now. So, Doron, you found the bulla of Yehuchal ben Shlomiah ben Shvi. It is pretty much incontrovertible. That is the name that you found, that is found in the book of Jeremiah. That is the bulla that you found here in the city of David. Can anybody argue about that? Is that one of those moments where it's an aha moment and nobody could say, well, the Jewish people were not here? Or can they?
Well, I'll tell you, Yishai, 95% of the world went crazy over this discovery. Keeping in mind, 95% of the world respects the Bible. It was on the cover of the New York Times, it was in the Jewish press, it was in all the major newspapers throughout the world. However, as soon as it went out, I started getting emails into my inbox from all these Arab websites saying this is some form of Zionist propaganda geared to recreate Jewish history, saying there's no proof that this Yuchal is the same Yuchal in the Bible. This is where I learned that God has a sense of humor. Keeping in mind, Yishai, that for every seal, every bully you find, thousands never make it to the surface. They're broken, they're ruined, they're lost. At that point in time, 3 months later, 30 feet from where we were standing, where we found the original one, a second seal was found, which in itself is incredible. We melted down the name, and on that seal, it says Gedaliahu, the son of Pashhur. If you open the book of Jeremiah and you look at Yuchal, the son of Shlemiah, when he went to kill the prophet Jeremiah, he took 3 people with him. One of them was Gedaliah, the son of Pashhur. For the first time in archaeological history, you have 2 names which appear in the same sentence of the Bible, found in the same excavation at a distance of 30 feet from each other. That, my friend, is totally incontrovertible proof.
And that's also a miracle. And that's also something that's just sent chills down my spine. I mean, how come their seals were here? Why did they just drop their seals? How did that happen exactly, that it was found so close together? What was the circumstance by which you guess, these seals were found so close to one another?
Well, you lead to the main point here, and that's an excellent question. Clearly, if we find 2 seals, which already shows that they're royal people of importance, with 2 names that made it into the big book, and both of these 2 people knew Jeremiah, clearly you are standing in a place that was used during the biblical period, that ministers and kings and government officials and prophets were walking through, and that is another great proof that this could be the palace of King David, and in any case, this was a major building from the First Temple period.
Maybe a high court building or some kind of government building?
Absolutely. These were documents that had been signed. Probably the documents were burnt away by the Babylonians, and the same fire that burnt away those documents cooked and burned these seals like in a kiln and preserved them for 2,600 years.
Yet another miracle. Amazing stuff. Doron Spielman, we're going to keep going. You're going to show us how the ancient world is coming to life again in the modern state of Israel.
A bulla is a small piece of clay stamped with the seal of a king or high-ranking government official. Now, what makes these tiny bullae so extraordinary is that the Hebrew inscription on each is a perfect match to the names of 2 Judean princes mentioned in the Old Testament. This bulla is inscribed with the name Gedaliah, son of Pashhur, and this one reads Yehiel, son of Shelemiah, son of Shovi. Both of these men are named in Jeremiah 38 verse 1, and both were part of a cabal of government ministers that attempted to kill the prophet Jeremiah. Only 3 bullae with biblical personalities clearly inscribed on them have ever been discovered in controlled scientific excavations. 2 now currently reside in this auditorium. In fact, these 2 bullae have never been shown to the public until this exhibit, so you can understand why we're so excited to share these with the world.
Another name from the book of Jeremiah also miraculously tests to its authenticity and comes from the very next chapter. When Babylon took the city, just as Jeremiah prophesied, an official named Nebuchadnezzar entered Jerusalem with the high officials of Babylon. When Dr. Michael Jersa from the University of Vienna was deciphering a Babylonian tablet, he found the tablet's cuneiform text included the name of that same Babylonian official. The tablet was a receipt for a temple donation he had made. Let's hear about this discovery in Dr. Michael Jersa's own words.
The next account is from the January-February 2008 issue of the periodical Archaeology. The headline reads, Nebo-Sarsekim Tablet, the British Museum, UK. Last June, Austrian Assyriologist Michael Jersa was doing what he has done since 1991, poring over the more than 100,000 undeciphered cuneiform tablets in the British Museum. But while analyzing records from the Babylonian city of Sippar, he made a startling discovery with biblical implications. It came in the unlikely form of a tablet noting a 1.5 pound gold donation to a temple made by an official or chief eunuch, Nebo-Sarsekim. At first, I was just pleased to have found a reference to the title chief eunuch, as these officials are mentioned very rarely in the sources, says Jersa. Then it suddenly came to me that this text was very close chronologically to an episode narrated in Jeremiah 39 in which Nebo-Sarsekim is mentioned, and that I might actually have found the very man. So then I got quite excited and instantly went and checked and double-checked the exact spelling of the name in the Hebrew Bible and saw that it matched what I had found in the Babylonian text. The tablet is dated 595 BC, the 9th year of Nebuchadnezzar II's reign. The book of Jeremiah relates that after Nebuchadnezzar took Jerusalem in 587 BC, he committed the prophet Jeremiah to Nebo-Sarsekim's care. It is so incredibly rare to find people appearing in the Bible who are not kings mentioned elsewhere, says Jersa. Something like this tablet, where we see a person mentioned in the Bible making an everyday payment to the temple in Babylon and quoting the exact date, is quite extraordinary. End of quote.
Jeremiah the prophet lived until 570 BC.